Welcome back to the Finding Something Real podcast. I'm Frankie, and I am one of the co-hosts of this last season, and I'm also here with Cailee.
Hello.
And we're just here to talk about just some of our takeaways from the season, and specifically Kaylee's takeaways, because she has a lot of different takeaways than I have had this season, and got to watch a lot of different people talk and, just debrief about what we got to hear and listen to and people we got to talk to. So if you want to go ahead and just go.
Yes.
What stuck out?
So I think one of the first people who comes to mind that stuck out a lot was talking to Abdu Murray, and I was able to talk to him a lot about AI and how AI and God interact in today's world, and that was really interesting. And I got to hear a little bit about his book, Fake ID, I believe. I haven't gotten the chance to read it, but I have it, so I'm really excited to read that. Yeah, I loved being able to hear his view on AI and Christianity. And as an artist, I have really grown to dislike AI, and maybe even I'm scared of it at times. So it was really great to hear his opinions on that and what he thinks and where he thinks AI is in, as a Christian. Yeah.
Do you think your perspective changed at all after talking to him and kind of hearing his thoughts?
So I think the biggest thing, my main perspective didn't change much, because I do think we agreed on some things about just that maybe people every day to day shouldn't be using it as much, and we did talk a little bit about that, but mostly something he changed my mind about, or that I got to think a lot about, was just the way that AI is coming across as this all-knowing thing. And I was really struggling with that as a Christian, to be is it trying to compete with God? But he had some great points that it will never be able to compete, because AI is an accumulation of just everything that humans have done, which I do think has its own problems as well. But it was nice to be able to hear it that way, that we don't need to be afraid of it, because it is just this man-made thing. It's its own thing. It'll never be able to come close to God. And so that was really reassuring.
Yeah. Super cool. Was that one of your main questions coming in to this whole season, or?
Maybe not exactly. That's just been a question that has just been on my mind in general.
Okay.
And so when Janelle was talking about how she was bringing someone onto the podcast who talked about that, I was really excited to be able to ask a Christian, kind of author, and who has, there's a word I'm looking for, but I can't think of it, but just someone who I can talk to and ask those questions to, which was really, really great. Yeah. So yeah, I do think that was just a big question I had in general. That, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's cool to hear too, because I think from your perspective, it kind of is so such a prominent thing, mm-hmm. And on the other side, for me, mm-hmm. I would have never thought about mm-hmm. the way that might play a role into people see AI as an all-knowing thing, mm-hmm. And for me, that doesn't cross my mind. But then when people talk about it, and I get to hear someone else who's has experience or knowledge about it, mm-hmm. A lot more than I do, because I honestly don't really pay attention to it as much. Yeah, and it doesn't affect my daily life. Mm-hmm. It's cool to hear other people's perspectives and other people's knowledge about it. So answered a lot of questions I guess I didn't know I would have, mm-hmm. which is also super cool.
Yes, that's always exciting.
Yeah. Yes. Cool. What else? What other questions did you go into the season with?
So just some questions I had also were about purpose and identity, and just not knowing quite where I'm supposed to be, or how I'm supposed to get where I'm supposed to be. That was a big thing. And going into the podcast, that's just been a big question in general over the last couple years since graduating college and stuff. It's just where am I going, and how do I know where I'm supposed to go? So I think someone else who I got to talk to was Shelli Strickland, and she had some great points, just talking about identity and how, like, her story in general is just really great, and how she got to be where she is now. And just that whole podcast that I got to be on, or a recording, I guess, that I got to be a part of, was like, she was just so real and had like, so real to talk to, had such a real deep story, and it was really great to get to listen to her. And I think that I lost my train of thought. It'll come back. I just really enjoyed being able to hear her story, and I like just some great points about how it may take longer for others, and not as long for let me reword that. It may take a long time for some people, but for others, they kind of get right back on track right away, and that we're all different. And yeah, I think, that's important.
Yeah, I think it's also super cool, like, the duality of speakers we had, because a lot, like, some of the speakers we had were very, like, information heavy, and, like, they had, like, all the facts and, like, the explanations, and then there was so many that had, like, just a strong testimony, or, like, strong, like, experiences that, like, can answer, like, the more of those, like, specific questions, or, like, even, like, just more empathetically too, like, in a, like, the aspect of, oh, like, instead of giving them all the, like, information, like, I've experienced something similar, or met people who have experienced something similar, and so they're able to give, like, a lot more, like, empathy and, like, real world, like, kind of community, honestly, just, like, as Christians, to be able to, like, reach out to these people that are, like, all over the place, and, like, hear their stories, and then also, like, share ours as well, is really cool. But
yeah, I know, being able to talk to, like you said, like, theologians and scientists even, but then just listening to people's stories that are just so, like, real and raw, and, like, a mix of both, and just, like, all over. It was so cool to be able to hear so many different perspectives and stories. And
cool. We were also just talking about the Ruby event.
Ooh, yes.
And how amazing it was, which shameless plug, if you haven't watched the live recording at the Ruby, it was, I guess I'm biased, but it was my, like, personal favorite thing to be a part of, because we were, like, all there together, and we got to hear, like, real questions from an audience that like, may never have heard of the podcast, may never have like, heard of the people that were speaking, or like, could be a Christian, could not be Christian, and they're just bringing, like, all these, like, crazy questions, honestly, that, like, I don't know, just, like, all over the place, and it was really cool just to hear, like, some people were talking about aliens, and then some people were talking about, like those really hard suffering questions. So what did you take away from the Ruby event?
I agree with Frankie that it was definitely one of my favorite things that we did. It was probably the thing I was most nervous for out of everything that we did, because it's one thing talking to a camera with, like, a couple other people, but to actually have an audience, like, watching you, I just didn't know what to expect from it. I don't think any of us did, because it was something none of us have done before. But it was just so amazing. It was amazing to get to meet speakers who have been on the podcast in person, and actually get to talk to them outside of just the live recording as well, and have a meal with them. And like Xander Greamy, we had multiple opportunities to talk to her, and she's just so knowledgeable, and it was great to hear some different perspectives with her, like, scientific mind. And then just great to hear Adam Coleman talk as well. But just some of the questions that were asked, the way that some of the people who came were just random people who walked by at the right time and decided to come in. And so it was really great to just hear the different questions and talk in person to some of the people who have been on the podcast that we've only ever seen over a screen.
That was super cool. It was just, like, it felt like, I mean, I feel like I say this word a lot when I talk about the podcast, but it felt real, because these weren't people who were, like, preparing to sit in front of a camera and like ask questions that they'd kind of thought about, like, and curated, you know. It was more like, oh, like, this is what you're talking about, like, I have this question, which is really cool that we just kind of all got to be there and everyone could ask whatever they wanted. But yeah, that one was super cool.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions that, like, out of this season you like wish you could talk about more, or like, you know, people you wish you could ask more questions to, or anything like that?
I do think a person who I would love to sit down and talk to some more is Xander Greamy. Also because a question that I've had a lot in general, like over my life, is like the environment in Christianity. And so I did get to talk to Xander a little bit, just like off to the side. But I think that would be really fun to be able to talk about with her a little bit more in depth. Yeah, because that's something I've also been interested in.
What makes you interested in it?
Yeah, I just think like being stewards of the earth really interests me. And but I've also found a lot that in Christianity, it's not a big priority to some people. And so I just think that's really interesting to learn about, and like why as like we are called to be stewards of the earth, why some people don't take that as seriously as others. And I just think that would be a fun topic to talk about.
I think that's super interesting. Like, it's hard not to notice, like, at the very beginning, it was one of like the main purposes that we were given. And then I also feel like sometimes in modern day there can be like an attitude towards like people who are like trying to be like environmentally friendly and everything. And I wonder, like, I wonder what her perspective is like. I know she has a book about that. I haven't read it, but I know that like she's a scientist, and so and also a theologian, I believe. So she's definitely got some good perspective to like cross those like two paths. But you know, it's like one of those like main original commandments is to like fill and subdue the earth and to like take care of it and everything. And it's like, why is that not like a bigger conversation, you know? Like just like, at least in my experience, like that's not really been anything preached on for me, like growing up. Like I don't think I've ever heard a sermon about taking care of the earth, or like to treat it well, or like to subdue it, or like what it even means to subdue it. Because to be honest, like what does that mean? Like I wish I could know a little bit more about that and like what the original purpose was. So it is a super interesting conversation. Are there any other?
I think those are my biggest questions now. I'm sure I have so many more. They just kind of pop up randomly.
No,
but
that makes sense.
Those are some of my takeaways from the podcast this year. And just got to listen and talk to so many great people, and I'm really thankful for it. It's a great experience.
Amazing. I mean, we can do the typical question of like at the beginning. I know that you did like your individual recording with Janelle, and like she always asks like which stands out to you more out of the acronym. Has that changed for you in recent?
I don't remember what I said in the first one, but it's
restoration, eternity, authenticity, and love.
Yes, I'm trying to remember. I think, well, the one that stands the most out to me right now, I think, is authenticity. Just because we're in such a world that I feel like strays so much from that. Like everything has to be perfect and posed and like social media worthy. And I don't think that's very authentic. So I think, and also like with AI and stuff. I don't know if that's authentic. So so I'll just be, right now, I don't remember if that's what I said originally, but right now, authenticity, definitely.
That's another part that I really appreciate about this whole season is that it just like really creates a space where you can just ask like any question, like the ones that like you'd usually not be able to like bring up naturally or like maybe not feel comfortable to. I thought it was like a really great tool, and especially for the live recording at the Ruby, like for all those people who like had no connection to it, and like now it was like, oh, I have this chance to like ask a question. So yeah, super cool.
Yeah, I think another thing, kind of going off of that real quick, is he like having a group of, how many of us were there
on the stage? Like 8?
Yeah, something about like 8. And like just different, about 8 co-hosts throughout the season, maybe a little less. Just hearing everyone else's questions as well, like kind of like you said earlier, like there's so many things that I never would have thought of that I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right, that is a great question, and now I'm thinking of it because you asked that. And I think that was also really great, just having different people to both answer questions and to ask questions.
Yeah, it's really interesting how people like from different backgrounds come up with like different, they think about different things, and like the AI thing is something that you would think about, but like it would just go straight over my head. So it's really cool to like get different people's perspectives and just hear different stories, hear different questions, and it's also just like so valuable as like a community. To definitely like all be authentic together and be like, hey, like this is what I'm thinking about, and I want to know the answer to this question, and then the other person's like, oh my goodness, I've never thought about that. So it's amazing.
It is amazing.
Okay, well, thank you so much for answering all the questions.
Thank you for having me.
And then I'm sure we will see you in the next recording.
Yes, good to see you guys.